What did you put in my medicine? Evelyn Carter's voice should have disappeared beneath the storm. It didn't. The words hung between them on Blackthorn Cliff, thin and trembling, while rain swept sideways across the mountain and lightning tore open the sky beyond Mason Reed's shoulder. For one terrible second, her mate said nothing, and that silence answered her. Evelyn stood 3 steps from the edge, barefoot, her white dress soaked until the fabric clung cold against her slender body. Mud darkened the hem. Blood from the cut above her temple threaded down her pale cheek, warm for only a heartbeat before the rain washed it away. Her bright blue eyes stayed fixed on Mason. She had spent 7 years learning every version of his face. The smile he gave frightened children. The hard stare he wore before an alpha challenge. The rare softness he once saved for her. She had never seen this one. Fear. Not fear for her. Fear of her. Evelyn tightened her fist around the small black vial she had stolen from his private cabinet. You told me it was medicine. Mason's jaw flexed. Behind him, pine trees bent beneath the wind. The Silver Ridge guards who had dragged her here remained farther up the trail, deliberately out of earshot. That frightened her more than their presence. No witnesses. No healer. No counsel. Only an alpha and the omega everyone believed was too weak to shift. Give me the vial, Evie. His voice was gentle. That old gentleness nearly broke her. How many nights had she trusted that voice? How many times had Mason sat beside her bed while her bones burned beneath a full moon, pressing a cup into her shaking hands? Drink. It will make the pain stop. And she had. Every time. Because he was her mate. Because when the rest of Silver Ridge whispered broken omega, Mason had held her face between his hands and promised she was enough. Evelyn swallowed. What is it? Mason stepped toward her. She stepped back. A pebble slipped beneath her heel. She heard it bounce once against the cliff. Twice. Then nothing. Her breath caught. Mason stopped. Evelyn. No, it was barely louder than the rain. But she had never said that word to him before. Something changed. In his eyes. You're frightened, he said. You're confused. I asked what you put in me. Another flash of lightning whitened the world. And pain suddenly ripped through Evelyn's chest. She doubled over with a gasp. Not the familiar weakness. Not the dull sickness that had followed her for years. This was alive. Something struck the inside of her ribs. Once. Evelyn froze. Again. Her fingers flew to her chest. What? A sound crawled up her throat. Low. Raw. Animal. A growl. Mason went completely still. Evelyn slowly lifted her head. Rain ran from her lashes. Her blue eyes widened as she stared at him. She had never shifted. Never heard the wolf other omegas described as a second heartbeat beneath their own. Silver Ridge had laughed when she failed her first transformation. They had laughed harder after the second. By 22, Evelyn had stopped trying. There was nothing inside her. That was what everyone said. That was what Mason had taught her to believe. Then why had something just growled through her mouth? Mason? He took one involuntary step backward. And Evelyn saw it. Recognition. Her heart began hammering. You knew. Give me the vial. You knew she was there. Evelyn. The thing inside her slammed against its invisible cage again. Pain exploded along her spine. Evelyn cried out, dropping to one knee. For a fraction of a second, another heartbeat seemed to pulse beneath her own. Faint. Poisoned. Furious. She looked up at the man she had loved since she was 15. Mason was no longer pretending. His face had gone cold. You weren't supposed to hear her. The storm seemed to vanish. Evelyn could hear only her breathing. And those 6 words. She remembered every cup. Every bitter taste. Every morning she woke weaker. Every full moon when Mason told her to stop fighting because fighting only made the sickness worse. 7 years. Her fingers closed around the vial until the glass cut into her palm. You did this to me. Mason approached. This time Evelyn retreated until cold air touched her back. Nothing remained behind her. Only the abyss. Why? For the first time, grief entered her voice. Not because she feared death. Because some small stupid part of her still wanted him to deny it. Mason looked at her almost tenderly. Then his gaze dropped to the blood gathering around her fist. You would have taken everything from me. Evelyn stared at him. I never wanted anything from you. I know. His answer was immediate. That was somehow worse. Mason reached for her. She jerked away. His hand caught her wrist. Mason, stop. You should have kept taking the medicine. She struggled, but years of poison had left her body too weak. Please. His fingers tightened. Lightning flashed. For one heartbeat, Evelyn saw the man she had once planned to spend her life with. Then Mason opened his hand. There was no dramatic scream. Only surprise. The cliff vanished beneath her feet. Her white dress lifted around her as she fell backward into the black mist. Mason's face became smaller above her. Then the mountains swallowed him. Wind tore the breath from her lungs. Rock. Rain. Darkness. Evelyn closed her eyes. And somewhere beneath the poison, beneath 7 years of silence, something inside her finally woke enough to whisper one word. Run. Then 2 violet eyes opened in the darkness below. The first time Mason gave Evelyn the poison, he kissed her forehead before she drank it. She had been 15. Back then, she still believed pain meant her wolf was coming. The memory found her while she fell. Wind screamed past her ears. Blackthorn Cliff blurred into streaks of stone and rain, yet somehow her mind carried her somewhere warmer. Somewhere 7 years ago, into a small room lit by moonlight. Evelyn had been curled beneath a blanket, shaking so violently her teeth clicked together. Outside, young wolves celebrated their first shifts. She could hear their howls. Her own body burned. Every bone felt ready to split open, but nothing happened. No claws. No fur. No wolf. Then Mason had entered carrying a silver cup. He had been 20 then, already broad-shouldered, already carrying himself like the alpha he would become. Drink this, Evie. What is it? Medicine. She remembered his smile. She remembered trusting it. The liquid had tasted bitter. By morning, the pain was gone. So was the strange heartbeat she had felt. Inside her chest. Evelyn had called that relief. Now she knew better. The present slammed back into her. A branch struck her shoulder as she fell through the trees growing from the cliffside. Pain burst through her arm. She spun helplessly. Sky. Stone. Moon. Darkness. Then another memory. 17. Another full moon. Another cup. You're getting worse, Mason had whispered while holding her trembling hands. Maybe my wolf is broken. Don't say that. He had sounded offended on her behalf. That was how good he had been. Mason never needed to convince Evelyn that she was worthless. He simply allowed everyone else to do it, then became the only person who comforted her afterward. At 19, she stopped trying to shift. At 20, the healers stopped examining her. At 21, Silver Ridge stopped calling her sick. They called her defective. Through all of it, Mason brought the medicine. Night after night. 7 years. 7 years of poison disguised as kindness. The realization hurt worse than the fall. Evelyn opened her eyes. The bottom of the ravine rushed toward her. Black water. No, she hit the river. Cold swallowed her whole. The impact crushed the air from her lungs. For several seconds there was no up or down, only freezing darkness twisting her body through the current. Her dress tangled around her legs. Evelyn tried to swim. Her left arm barely moved. Pain stabbed beneath her ribs. She opened her mouth by instinct. Water flooded in. This is how I die. Not at Mason's hand. Not exactly. Down here where no one would find her. By sunrise, he could tell Silver Ridge anything. The broken Omega ran away. The rejected mate killed herself. Poor Evelyn had always been fragile. They would believe him. Something inside her snarled. Evelyn's eyes snapped open beneath the water. There it was again. Not imagination. Not pain. Her wolf. A presence scraped against the darkness inside her, weak but desperate. For years Evelyn had imagined what meeting her wolf might feel like. Warmth, perhaps. Recognition. A second soul embracing her own. Instead, she felt chains. Heavy. Poison-soaked. Wrapped around something furious. I'm sorry. She didn't know whether she thought. The words or spoke them into the river. I didn't know you were there. A pulse answered. Then move. Evelyn kicked. Her body screamed. Move. She forced her good arm through the water. For one impossible moment, strength surged through her legs. She rose toward the surface. Almost. Moonlight shimmered above her. Her fingers reached for it. Then the strength vanished. The current dragged her downward again. Her back struck something hard. Darkness crowded the edges of her vision. No. She had just found her wolf. She could not lose her now. Evelyn clawed at the water. Nothing answered. The poison had won too many years. Her movements slowed. Her heartbeat stumbled. Once. Twice. The hidden heartbeat beneath it became fainter. Then Evelyn noticed something impossible. 2 violet lights burned in the darkness. At first she thought they were reflections. They moved closer. Eyes. Someone was beneath the water with her. A massive shadow cut through the current with unnatural speed. An arm wrapped around Evelyn's waist. Warm. Powerful. She should have been afraid. Instead, the instant his skin touched hers, the wolf inside Evelyn went completely silent. Not dead. Listening. The stranger pulled her upward. They broke through the surface. Evelyn coughed violently as cold night air tore into her lungs. She caught only fragments. Black hair plastered by rain. A hard, masculine jaw. Broad shoulders rising from the river. And those eyes. Violet. Glowing. No wolf she had ever known possessed eyes like that. Stay awake, the stranger commanded. His voice was deep, rough from disuse. Evelyn tried to speak. Mason. The man's expression changed. He carried her toward the rocky bank as though she weighed nothing. Her fingers caught weakly against something hard covering his chest. Armor. Black armor. Ancient symbols were carved into the metal. Evelyn had seen that crest once before. Not on a living alpha. In an old history book. A crowned wolf beneath a black moon. Impossible. That royal bloodline had vanished centuries ago. The man lowered her onto the shore. His hand moved to her throat, searching for a pulse. Then he froze. His nostrils flared. Slowly, those unnatural violet eyes dropped toward the black vial still trapped inside Evelyn's bleeding fist. He took it, opened it, smelled the residue. Something savage entered his face. Wolfbane. Evelyn barely heard him. Her eyelids were closing. The stranger looked back at her. And somewhere deep beneath her poisoned blood, Evelyn's imprisoned wolf gave one weak, trembling heartbeat. The man heard it. His violet eyes widened. Then the Immortal Alpha King whispered the words Evelyn had waited 7 years to hear. There you are. Don't die before I learn who tried to kill you. The voice reached Evelyn through darkness. Deep. Cold. Close. She tried to open her eyes, but her body refused. Warmth surrounded her now. Not the gentle warmth of sunlight, but the heavy heat of fire against stone. Somewhere nearby, wood cracked inside a hearth. She smelled smoke. Pine. Rain. And something else. Something wild. Her wolf stirred. Evelyn's breath caught. There. Again. That faint presence beneath her ribs. Alive. She tried to reach for it with her mind. Pain answered. A broken sound escaped her lips. Easy. A hand closed around her wrist. Evelyn's eyes opened. Violet eyes stared back at her. She jerked away. Instantly, the stranger released her. No force. No command. He simply stepped back. Evelyn struggled upright. She was lying in an enormous bed beneath dark blankets. Her wet dress had been replaced with a simple white linen gown, and clean bandages wrapped her shoulder and ribs. The room around her looked ancient. Black stone walls. Iron candle holders. A fireplace large enough for a man to stand inside. Beyond the narrow windows, rain struck the glass. Where am I? Safe. Evelyn looked at him. That isn't a place. Something almost like amusement touched his mouth. Then disappeared. He stood several feet from the bed. Tall. Too tall. Broad shoulders filled a black shirt beneath an open leather coat. His dark hair was still damp, pushed carelessly away from a sharply cut face. He looked no older than 30. But his eyes did not belong to a young man. They carried the stillness of something that had watched generations disappear. Evelyn pulled the blanket higher. Who are you? Alexander. Alexander what? Silence. Her pulse quickened. The stranger noticed. I'm not going to hurt you. Mason used to say that. Alexander became very still. Evelyn wished she could pull the words back. Not because they were untrue. Because saying his name made Blackthorn Cliff real again. Mason's hand around her wrist. His face in the lightning. You weren't supposed to hear her. Evelyn looked down. Her fingers trembled. Alexander's gaze followed them. He was your mate. It was not a question. How do you know? His scent was on you. Shame burned across her face. Alexander's expression hardened. Not anymore. Something in the way he said it made her look up. Before she could ask, pain twisted through her abdomen. Evelyn gasped. Alexander crossed the room with startling speed. His hand stopped inches from her. He waited. Even through the pain, Evelyn noticed. He could have grabbed her. He didn't. May I? The question confused her. Then she nodded. His palm settled against her side. Heat moved through the thin fabric. Evelyn inhaled sharply. Inside her, something answered him. A weak growl rolled through her chest. Alexander froze. His violet eyes brightened. Evelyn shoved his hand away. What was that? He stepped back immediately. You tell me. I can't. You heard it. I don't have a wolf. Alexander stared at her. Evelyn hated the words even as she said them. They tested me. Every healer in Silver Ridge tested me. I can't shift. That doesn't mean you don't have one. You don't understand. I understand more than you think. His voice had changed. Softer. More dangerous. Alexander walked toward a stone table beside the fire. The black vial lay there. Evelyn's stomach tightened. He picked it up. This was in your hand when I found you. Mason gave it to me. How long? She hesitated. 7 years. Alexander slowly turned. For the first time, his control cracked. Something predatory moved across his face. 7. He said it stopped the pain. It stopped your wolf. Evelyn stared at him. No, wolfbane mixed with silverroot and binding ash. Each word fell like a stone. A normal dose would kill a young wolf. Her mouth went dry. Then why am I alive? Alexander looked directly into her eyes. That is what concerns me. The fire snapped. Evelyn could hear her heartbeat. What does that mean? It means whatever is inside you survived 7 years of poison designed to destroy it. A chill crawled across her skin. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Alexander placed the vial down. Then something struck the door. Once. Evelyn flinched. Alexander did not. Another impact came. Not a knock. A scratch. Then a low whine. Alexander opened the door. A massive black wolf stood in the corridor. Evelyn stopped breathing. The animal lowered its head to Alexander. Not submission exactly. Recognition. Alexander touched 2 fingers to its forehead. The wolf turned and disappeared into the darkness. Evelyn stared. What is this place? Alexander closed the door. Blackwood. Her blood went cold. She knew that name. Every wolf child did. Blackwood had once been the seat of an ancient royal line. A dynasty destroyed centuries ago. Its fortress had been abandoned ever since. That's impossible. So I've been told. Evelyn studied him again. The black clothing. The impossible eyes. The way the wolf had bowed. A memory surfaced. The crest carved into his armor beside the river. A crowned wolf beneath a black moon. Her breathing became shallow. No, Alexander said nothing. Who are you? Before he could answer, pain exploded through Evelyn's body. She screamed. Her back arched. Something slammed against her ribs from the inside. Once. Twice. Harder. Alexander reached her before she fell. His arms caught her. The instant his skin touched hers, the room seemed to shake. Evelyn heard a howl. Not outside. Inside. Alexander heard it too. His entire body locked. And for the first time in centuries, something ancient inside him answered. His wolf surged awake with such violence that his eyes burned brilliant violet. One word thundered through his mind. Mate. Alexander stared down at the trembling woman in his arms. Then, very carefully, he hid his reaction. Because Evelyn had just escaped one man who believed a mate bond gave him the right to control her. Alexander would not become another, even if every instinct in his immortal body was demanding that he never let her go. If I don't have a wolf, then whose heartbeat are you hearing? Evelyn hated how small her voice sounded. Alexander stood beside the bed, his face unreadable. For several seconds, only the fire answered her. Crack. Hiss. Crack. His violet eyes lowered to her chest. Not yours. Cold moved through her. Evelyn pulled the blanket tighter around herself. That isn't possible. Alexander said nothing. She almost wished he would laugh. Tell her the fall had damaged her mind. Tell her she had imagined the growls, the second heartbeat, the voice beneath the river. Run. Instead, he reached toward her. Then stopped. Your wrist. Evelyn looked at his open hand. He was asking again. Mason never asked. The thought came so quickly it hurt. Slowly, she gave Alexander her hand. His fingers closed around her wrist. Warm skin. Calloused fingertips. A touch careful enough that Evelyn could have pulled away whenever she wanted. Alexander closed his eyes. 1. She felt her pulse beneath his thumb. 2. Another beat. Silence. Evelyn almost exhaled. Then thump. A second rhythm answered from somewhere deeper. Not in her wrist. Inside her. Her breath stopped. Alexander's eyes opened. Thump. Weak. Slow. But there. Evelyn ripped her hand away. No, Evelyn, no. She stumbled from the bed. Pain immediately tore through her ribs, but she kept moving until her back touched the cold stone wall. I was tested. I know. You don't know anything. Her voice cracked. Every full moon I tried. Do you understand? I watched girls younger than me shift while I lay on the ground screaming because my bones felt like they were breaking and nothing happened. Alexander remained still. They called me empty. Her throat tightened. Defective. The word tasted familiar. She hated that. And Mason, she could not finish. Alexander did it for her. Mason made sure you believed them. Evelyn looked away. 7 years of silver cups. 7 years of gentle smiles. Drink, Evie. She pressed a fist against her mouth. Why? Alexander crossed to the table and lifted the black vial. Because this isn't ordinary wolfbane. He poured one dark drop onto a silver plate. The liquid spread like ink. Then the silver blackened. Evelyn stared. Wolfbane attacks the bond between human and wolf, Alexander said. Enough kills both. But I'm alive. Yes. He added a pinch of gray powder from a small jar. The liquid hissed. Thin strands curled across the plate like veins. Alexander's jaw hardened. Binding ash. What does that do? It changes the purpose. Evelyn waited. Alexander looked at her. This poison wasn't designed to kill your wolf. A strange pressure filled the room. It was designed to keep her asleep. Her knees weakened. Alexander caught the chair beside him and pushed it toward her instead of touching her. Evelyn sat. She barely noticed. Her mind had gone somewhere else. 15 years old. Mason handing her the first cup. 17. Him insisting she drink before the full moon. 19. Her telling him she wanted to stop taking it. His anger. She had forgotten that. No. She had chosen not to remember. You need it, Mason had said. What if I don't? Then you could hurt yourself. Or someone else. Evelyn's stomach turned. He was afraid. Alexander's gaze sharpened. What? The first time I tried to refuse the medicine. She swallowed. Mason looked afraid. Not annoyed. Not worried. Afraid. Alexander crouched several feet in front of her. Tell me exactly what happened. I don't remember everything. Remember what you can. Evelyn closed her eyes. Moonlight. A silver cup. Mason's fingers shaking. Then something else. A voice behind a half-open door. An old healer speaking. If she survives, Evelyn opened her eyes. The memory vanished. Alexander noticed. What did you hear? I don't know. Pain suddenly stabbed behind her eyes. She gasped. Her hands flew to her head. The room sharpened. Too sharply. She heard rain striking individual panes of glass. Fire consuming wood. Alexander's breathing. And farther away, footsteps. Dozens of them. Evelyn looked toward the door. What is that? Alexander did not move. What do you hear? People. His expression changed. There are no people in this wing. But I can hear them. She could smell things now. Wet stone. Smoke. Leather. Blood. Alexander. His scent struck her hardest. Winter pine. Dark earth. Something ancient enough to make the presence inside her rise toward it. Evelyn doubled over. A growl vibrated through her chest. Alexander's violet eyes flashed. Fight through it. I can't. Yes, you can. It hurts. I know. No, you don't. Evelyn looked up, tears burning her eyes. It feels like she's trying to tear me apart. Alexander's face softened. No, he moved closer but did not touch her. Listen to her. Evelyn shook her head. Listen. She forced herself to breathe. Past the pain. Past the fear. Past 7 years of Mason telling her there was nothing there. Then she heard it. Not words. Not yet. A cry. Faint. Furious. Lonely. Evelyn's tears finally fell. She's hurting. Alexander's jaw tightened. Yes. Because of the poison? He looked at the black vial. Because someone has spent 7 years chaining her inside you. Another pulse struck beneath Evelyn's ribs. Harder this time. Alexander rose slowly. Something cold entered his expression. Whoever did this wasn't afraid your wolf would die. He looked directly into her bright blue eyes. He was terrified of what would happen if she woke up. If she wakes up completely, will I still be me? Evelyn asked the question just before dawn. Alexander stood across the training chamber, watching her with those impossible violet eyes. Yes. No hesitation. She swallowed. And if you're wrong? Then I'll be here. That answer frightened her more than a promise should have. 3 days had passed since Alexander discovered the binding poison. 3 days without Mason's medicine. And Evelyn's world had become unbearably loud. She could hear servants moving 2 floors below. Smell rain before clouds reached Blackwood. See individual sparks rising from candles. Her wounds were changing too. The bruises from Blackthorn Cliff had faded from purple to yellow overnight. The cut on her palm was already a thin pink line. Her wolf was waking. Piece by piece. Alexander placed a wooden cup on the table between them. Drink. Evelyn froze. 1 word. 1 cup. And suddenly she was 15 again. Mason smiling. Drink, Evie. Her hand began trembling. Alexander noticed. He immediately pushed the cup away. You don't have to. Evelyn stared at him. What is it? Water. Willow bark. Nothing else. You expect me to believe you? No, the answer surprised her. Alexander picked up the cup and drank half of it himself. Then he placed it down. I expect trust to take time. Something tightened behind Evelyn's ribs. Not pain. Something softer. She took the cup. The liquid tasted faintly bitter. Her wolf remained calm. For some reason, that nearly made Evelyn cry. Alexander turned toward the stone circle carved into the floor. Again. Evelyn stepped inside it. Close your eyes. She did. Find the second heartbeat. At first there was only her own. Then thump. Faint. Thump. Closer than yesterday. Don't force her. Alexander's voice anchored her. Let her come to you. Evelyn breathed. The darkness behind her eyes changed. For 1 heartbeat, she smelled snow. Not the room. Not Blackwood. A forest. Moonlight on white branches. Then she saw eyes. Silver blue. Evelyn gasped. The vision vanished. What happened? I saw her. Alexander's expression sharpened. What color? White. Something flickered across his face. Recognition. Before Evelyn could question it, another memory struck. A door. Half open. Mason's study. She was 19. She had come to tell him she would stop taking the medicine. Voices inside. Mason. And Dr. Harris, the old healer who disappeared from Silver Ridge weeks later. If she survives her first true shift, Harris had whispered, Even an alpha won't command her. Evelyn's eyes flew open. Her breathing turned shallow. Alexander crossed toward her. What did you remember? A healer. Name? Harris. She pressed trembling fingers against her temple. He told Mason something about me. What? Evelyn forced herself back into the memory. Mason's voice. Angry. You said the doses would prevent this. They suppress her. They cannot change what she is. What if she stops taking them? A pause. Then Harris answered. If she survives her first true shift, even an alpha won't command her. Evelyn staggered. Alexander caught her elbow. She did not pull away. Mason knew. Yes. He knew when I was 19. Probably earlier. The cruelty of it settled slowly. Mason had not merely watched her suffer. He had measured it, controlled it, maintained it. Evelyn's grief hardened into something unfamiliar. Anger. Her wolf answered. A growl shook the chamber. The candles flickered. Alexander's hand tightened slightly around her arm. Not restraining. Steadying. Again, he said. Evelyn looked at him. What? Be angry. Her eyes widened. Silver Ridge had taught Omegas the opposite. Lower your voice. Lower your eyes. Control yourself. Alexander stepped back. Your anger belongs to you, Evelyn. Stop apologizing for it. Something broke. Not inside her. Around her. The invisible cage. Evelyn screamed. Power burst through the chamber. Every candle went out. Her knees struck stone. Pain raced along her spine, but this time she did not fight it. She welcomed it. Her hearing exploded outward. The fortress. The forest. The mountain. Heartbeats. Hundreds of them. Then wolves howled beyond the walls. 1, 5, 20. Answering her. Alexander stared. Evelyn raised her head. For a heartbeat, her blue eyes burned silver. Then a horn sounded from the northern tower. Once. Twice. 3 times. Alexander's expression changed instantly. The warmth disappeared. The king replaced the man. What does that mean? Evelyn whispered. Heavy footsteps thundered outside. The door opened. A black-armored guard dropped to one knee. My lord. Alexander turned. The guard looked briefly at Evelyn, then lowered his head. Riders crossed the northern boundary. How many? 30. Evelyn's stomach tightened. The guard continued. Silver Ridge. Silence. Then he said the name. Alpha Mason Reed is leading them. Evelyn stopped breathing. Alexander's eyes ignited violet. But beneath Evelyn's ribs, something even more frightening happened. Her poisoned wolf did not hide. She stood up. He came back to finish what he started. Evelyn's voice did not shake. That frightened her. 3 days ago, hearing Mason's name would have hollowed out her chest. Now she stood beside the narrow window of Blackwood's northern tower and watched 30 Silver Ridge riders emerge from the forest below. Mason rode. At the front. Even from this distance, Evelyn recognized the way he sat in the saddle. Straight-backed. Controlled. Certain the world would move when he commanded it. Alexander stood behind her in black armor. Stay inside. Evelyn turned. His violet eyes narrowed slightly. That sounded like an order. It was badly phrased. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Alexander corrected himself. The walls are safer than the courtyard. I would prefer you behind them. Better. A horn sounded below. Then Mason's voice carried through the rain. Evelyn Carter belongs to Silver Ridge. Her stomach tightened. Alexander's expression went cold. She belongs to herself. The first arrow struck the tower window. Glass exploded. Alexander moved. His body covered Evelyn before the shards reached her. Another arrow flew through the opening. Then another. Down. Blackwood guards surged into the corridor. Outside, wolves howled. The fortress awakened. Evelyn smelled blood before she saw any. Her senses were too sharp now. Metal. Rain. Fear. Wolfbane. Her head snapped toward the shattered window. Alexander. He saw it too late. A black-feathered arrow came through the opening. Evelyn turned instinctively. The arrow buried itself beneath her shoulder. For one heartbeat, She felt nothing. Then fire entered her blood. She screamed. Alexander caught her before she hit the floor. His hand closed around the shaft. His face changed. Wolfbane. Not the slow poison Mason had hidden in medicine. This was concentrated. Made to kill. Evelyn's vision blurred. Somewhere below, Mason shouted again. Bring me the Omega. Alexander snapped the arrow. His violet eyes burned. The air around him seemed to darken. Every wolf in the corridor lowered its head. For a moment, Evelyn saw what he had been hiding. Not simply power. Age. Authority. Something ancient enough to make Alpha blood remember fear. Alexander lifted her into his arms. Clear the healing chamber. The guards obeyed instantly. Evelyn pressed her face against his chest. His heartbeat was steady. Hers was not. Neither was the second one. Her wolf whimpered. No, Evelyn barely formed the word. Alexander looked down. She's disappearing. I know. He carried her into a circular chamber and placed her on a stone table. A healer rushed forward. One glance at the black veins spreading from Evelyn's wound made the woman stop. My lord, leave us. But now, the door closed. Alexander cut the fabric around the wound. Black lines were already crawling toward Evelyn's heart. Listen to me. She tried. His face kept fading. There is one thing I can do. Do it. No, his answer was sharp. Evelyn blinked. Alexander leaned closer. You need to understand first. Her teeth began chattering. My blood can burn the wolfbane from you. Then why are we talking? Because my blood is not normal alpha blood. Something in his voice reached through the pain. Evelyn stared at him. Alexander drew a small blade across his palm. Blood welled dark against his pale skin. The scent hit her. Her wolf surged weakly. Alexander's eyes flashed. Immortal blood. The words seemed to echo. If you take it, it may force your wolf away completely. It could also kill you. Evelyn closed her eyes. Mason had made choices for her for 7 years. What she drank. What she believed. How weak she was allowed to become. Even whether her wolf deserved to live. She opened her eyes. Alexander was waiting. Not deciding. Waiting. If I do this, he said quietly, there is no going back. Evelyn looked at his bleeding palm. Then at him. Good. Alexander touched his blood to her lips. The world stopped. Heat exploded through her. Evelyn screamed. Her spine arched from the table. Every poison nerve ignited. Black veins beneath her skin turned silver. Alexander caught her shoulders. Stay with me. Bones cracked. Her hearing exploded outward. The battle below. Rain against stone. 30 silver-rich hearts. Blackwood wolves. Alexander. Then one heartbeat louder than all of them. Hers. No. The other one. The heartbeat that had been buried for 7 years. Thump. 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 Evelyn opened her eyes. Silver blue light flooded the chamber. Something enormous rose inside her. Not broken. Not weak. Not omega small. White fur filled her mind. Silver claws struck invisible chains. Once. Twice. They shattered. A howl tore from Evelyn's throat. The sound rolled through Blackwood like thunder. Outside, the battle stopped. Every wolf fell silent. Then, one by one, they lowered themselves to the earth. Silver Ridge wolves. Blackwood wolves. Even Mason's horse reared in terror. Alexander stood motionless beside Evelyn. For the first time in centuries, the Immortal Alpha King looked stunned. Behind Evelyn, moonlight gathered into the shape of a massive white wolf. Its silver blue eyes opened. And deep inside her mind, Evelyn finally heard her clearly. Not a whimper. Not a plea. A voice. They poisoned me because they feared us. They didn't poison you because you were weak, Evelyn. They poisoned you because one day, an alpha would tell you to kneel, and you wouldn't. Alexander's words followed her beneath Blackwood. The battle above had ended without another blade being raised. The moment Evelyn's white wolf awakened, Mason's warriors had stopped fighting. Some had fallen to their knees. Others had fled into the forest. Mason had fled with them. That should have felt like victory. It didn't. Evelyn needed answers. Alexander led her down a spiral staircase beneath the fortress, carrying a lantern in one hand. His black armor was still marked with rain and blood. Evelyn followed in a simple white dress. Her body should have been broken. Instead, she felt stronger with every step. Her wolf moved inside her now. Not chains. Not pain. Presence. She had a strange sense of her silver blue eyes opening whenever Alexander came too close. As if the wolf recognized something Evelyn did not. Where are we going? To show you why Mason feared you. The staircase ended. Alexander pushed open two enormous stone doors. Cold air breathed from the darkness beyond. The lantern revealed a crypt. Not graves. Statues. Dozens of wolves carved from white stone lined the chamber. At the center stood a woman. Evelyn stopped. The statue wore a long ceremonial gown. One hand rested against the head of a massive white wolf. But Evelyn barely noticed the clothing. She was staring at the woman's face. The delicate features. The shape of the eyes. Even carved in stone, Evelyn knew their color. Silver blue. That looks like me. Alexander stopped beside her. No, his voice was quiet. You look like her. Evelyn's skin prickled. Who is she? Lillian Vale. Last of the Moonborn queens. Queen. Evelyn almost laughed. I'm an Omega from Silver Ridge. That is what they called you. Alexander lifted the lantern. Ancient symbols covered the wall behind the statue. A white wolf. A black moon. A crown between them. The Moonborn existed before the modern pack hierarchy, he said. They could not be controlled by Alpha Command. Evelyn remembered Dr. Harris. If she survives her first true shift, even an Alpha won't command her. Her stomach tightened. What were they? Alexander looked at the statue. The ones who decided whether kings deserved to remain kings. Silence filled the crypt. Evelyn stared at him. You're saying my ancestors could overthrow Alpha Kings? I'm saying my ancestors feared yours enough to write laws protecting them. Her wolf stirred proudly. Then Evelyn noticed something. My ancestors. She turned toward Alexander. The crowned wolf beneath the black moon. His armor. The wolves bowing. The ancient fortress bearing his name. You keep talking about kings as if you knew them. Alexander went still. Evelyn stepped closer. Who are you? He could have lied. She saw the possibility pass through his eyes. Then Alexander set the lantern down. And knelt. One knee touched the stone. Evelyn's breath stopped. The most powerful man she had ever met lowered his head before her. Alexander Blackwood, he said. His voice echoed through the crypt. Last sovereign of the Blackwood bloodline. Violet light ignited in his eyes. Immortal Alpha King of the Northern Realms. Evelyn backed away. No, you asked for the truth. You're dead. So history keeps insisting. How old are you? A pause. Older than anything that answer would make easier. Evelyn stared at him. Every childhood story returned at once. Alexander Blackwood. The king who vanished. The alpha whose wolf could command armies. The immortal ruler mothers used to frighten disobedient children. And he had been carrying her through a river. Making her tea. Asking permission before touching her. Why? Didn't you tell me? Because you were injured. That isn't an answer. You had just escaped an alpha who controlled your life. His voice softened. The last thing you needed was to wake in the fortress of another king. Evelyn's anger faltered. Alexander rose. There is something else. Her wolf suddenly became alert. Evelyn almost groaned. Of course there is. For the first time, Alexander nearly smiled. Then the expression vanished. The night I pulled you from the river, something inside me woke too. Evelyn's heartbeat changed. Alexander did not move closer. My wolf has been silent for centuries. She knew before he said it. Perhaps her wolf knew first. Warmth spread beneath her ribs. Alexander's voice dropped. He called you mate. The words struck harder than the fall. Evelyn stepped backward. Alexander stayed exactly where he was. No, I know. You don't get to claim me. I won't. You don't get to decide what this means. I won't. Her eyes burned. Mason called me his mate too. Something painful crossed Alexander's face. I know. Evelyn waited for him to approach. To command. to tell her destiny had already chosen. He did none of those things. Instead, the Immortal Alpha King stepped aside. Behind him, the doors stood open. You are free to leave Blackwood whenever you choose. Evelyn stared at the path, then at him. For 7 years, Mason had called control love. Alexander had just been handed a sacred reason to possess her. And his first act was to open the door. Inside Evelyn, the white wolf whispered for the first time without pain. Not his. Not theirs. Ours. Evelyn slowly looked back at the statue of the Moonborn queen. Then she understood. Before she could choose any mate, any king, or any future, she had to return to Silver Ridge. Not as Alexander Blackwood's woman. As herself. You told them I was dead. Evelyn's voice crossed the great hall before anyone saw her. Music stopped. A crystal glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered across the marble floor. At the far end of Silver Ridge Hall, Mason Reed slowly rose from the Alpha throne. He was dressed for a coronation. Black ceremonial coat. Silver crest. The same proud face. Evelyn had once searched for comfort. Beside him stood Victoria Hale in a crimson gown, one hand still extended toward the ceremonial bond waiting to be sealed. 200 wolves turned toward the doors. Evelyn stepped inside. Alone. For a moment, nobody breathed. Her white dress moved softly around her ankles. There was no crown on her head. No royal jewels around her throat. She had wanted none. Her brown hair fell loose over her shoulders, and her pale face still carried the faint healing line where Blackthorn Cliff had cut her. But her eyes were different. Blue. Until the light caught them. Then silver burned beneath the blue. Someone whispered her name. Evelyn. Another voice followed. She's alive. Evelyn kept walking. She recognized faces. People who had laughed when she failed to shift. Women who had looked away when Mason publicly rejected her. Healers who had accepted his explanation without asking why a healthy 15-year-old girl suddenly became sick. No one laughed now. Mason descended one step from the throne. His face had lost all color. This is impossible. Evelyn stopped halfway across the hall. You should know better than anyone how difficult I am to kill. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Mason recovered quickly. He always did. His expression softened into concern. Evie. Her wolf growled. Not aloud. Inside. Evelyn felt the sound like warmth beneath her ribs. Mason opened his arms. Thank the moon goddess. We thought you had thrown yourself from Blackthorn after the rejection. There it was. The lie. Smooth. Prepared. Almost beautiful. Once, Evelyn might have questioned her own memory simply because Mason spoke with such certainty. Not anymore. You pushed me. Silence. Victoria looked sharply at him. Mason's smile disappeared. You're confused. No, you were ill. No, you've always struggled with your mind during the full moon. Evelyn almost pitied the man she used to be afraid of. He had only one weapon left. The version of her he had created. Weak. Unstable. Dependent. Mason took another step. Come here. Evelyn did not move. His eyes hardened. Evelyn Carter, as Alpha of Silver Ridge, I command you. Power entered his voice. Several lower-ranking wolves dropped their eyes automatically. Evelyn felt the command strike her. It pressed against her skin, reached for her bones, and found nothing it could hold. Mason stared. Kneel. The word thundered through the hall. Evelyn remained standing. A silver glow entered her eyes. Someone gasped. Mason descended another step. Kneel. This time his alpha power shook the chandeliers. Wolves throughout the hall bent beneath it. Evelyn tilted her head. No, one word. Quiet. Absolute. Her wolf opened her eyes. Power rolled outward. Not violent. Older. Deeper. The first wolf dropped to one knee. Then another. Then 10. 20. The sound moved through the hall like rain. Knees touching marble. Heads lowering. Not toward Mason. Toward Evelyn. Victoria stumbled backward. Mason looked around in horror. What are you doing? No one answered. Then footsteps sounded behind Evelyn. Slow. Heavy. Measured. The wolves nearest the doors smelled him first. Fear swept through the room. Evelyn did not turn. She knew that heartbeat now. Alexander Blackwood entered the hall wearing black armor. Violet eyes glowed beneath the torchlight. The royal crest rested over his heart. A crowned wolf beneath a black moon. An elderly councilman looked at the symbol. His face went white. No, Alexander walked forward. Recognition spread. The Blackwood King. He's dead. Impossible. Alexander stopped 3 steps behind Evelyn. Behind. Not beside. Not in front. Mason looked from him to Evelyn. Understanding arrived slowly. Then terror. You brought him here? Evelyn finally glanced back. Alexander's gaze met hers. He gave the smallest nod. Her choice. Her moment. Evelyn turned toward Mason again. No, her voice carried through the kneeling hall. He came because I asked. Mason's hands curled into fists. You're still my Omega. Alexander's eyes flashed violet. But he remained silent. Evelyn smiled. That silence gave her more strength than any threat could have. She walked toward the throne. Mason tried to hold his ground. His body betrayed him. 1 step backward. Then another. Evelyn stopped where he had publicly rejected her. Where 7 years of lies had nearly ended with her body at the bottom of a cliff. Her silver blue eyes met his. You poisoned my wolf. Mason said nothing. You tried to kill me. His jaw tightened. And now you're standing in front of my pack with another alpha? Evelyn looked around at the wolves still kneeling. Then back at him. Your pack. Something ancient moved through her blood. The white wolf rose inside her. Mason's alpha aura collapsed beneath it. His knees buckled. He caught himself against the throne. Evelyn stepped closer. No, Mason. Her voice became almost gentle. I didn't come back as Alexander Blackwood's claimed mate. Behind her, the Immortal Alpha King lowered his head in silent agreement. Evelyn looked down at the man who had once convinced her she was powerless. I came back as the woman you were afraid would wake up. You wanted me powerless. Now you get to live knowing you failed. Evelyn did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The words crossed Silver Ridge Hall while hundreds of wolves remained on their knees. Mason stood beside the throne, one hand gripping its carved armrest. His face had gone pale, but his eyes were still searching. Calculating. Looking for someone else to blame. Then he found one. Healer Harris. Evelyn went still. Mason pointed toward the council chamber. Harris made the medicine. He told me it was necessary. If there was wolfbane in it, then he acted without my knowledge. A door opened. An old man stepped into the hall. Evelyn forgot how to breathe. Dr. Harris looked smaller than she remembered. Gray hair. Bent shoulders. A scar crossed one side of his face. But he was alive. Mason's expression shattered. You. Harris walked forward carrying a leather ledger. I wondered how long it would take you to use my name. Mason stepped away from the throne. You disappeared. You ordered my death. A murmur spread through the hall. Harris stopped before Evelyn. His eyes filled with something she had never expected. Shame. I should have told you. Evelyn looked at the ledger. What is that? 7 years of doses. Silence. Dates. Amounts. Ingredients. His gaze moved to Mason. And the alpha who authorized everyone. Mason lunged. Alexander moved faster. One moment he stood behind Evelyn. The next, his hand was around Mason's wrist. No struggle. No spectacle. Just absolute control. Alexander's violet eyes burned. Try that again. Mason froze. Evelyn looked at Alexander. He released him immediately and stepped back. Her judgment. Not his. Harris opened the ledger. The first doses were ordered when Evelyn was 15. After her first awakening symptoms. Symptoms? Evelyn asked. Enhanced hearing. Accelerated healing. Resistance to alpha influence. Her wolf stirred. Harris swallowed. Mason learned what your bloodline might be before you did. Evelyn looked at Mason. You were 20. He said nothing. You poisoned a 15-year-old girl because you were afraid of what she might become. I protected this pack. The words exploded from him. Finally, the mask fell. Mason's chest rose violently. You think they're kneeling because they love you? They're terrified of you. I knew what Moonborn blood could do. I knew what would happen if you awakened. Evelyn felt strangely calm. So you made sure I hated myself first. Mason's silence answered. A sharp sound came from beside the throne. Victoria. She was staring at Harris's ledger. There are other names. Mason turned. Victoria, don't. She took the book. Her fingers stopped halfway down a page. Her face drained of color. What is this? Harris closed his eyes. Suppressants. Victoria looked at Mason. You told me those were fertility tonics. No one moved. Her voice broke. You told me I couldn't conceive without them. Mason approached her. Listen to me. Victoria backed away. For the first time, Evelyn saw herself in another woman's face. Not weakness. Recognition. The terrible moment when love revealed itself as control. Victoria slapped Mason. The sound cracked through the hall. You never wanted a Luna. Tears filled her eyes. You wanted women who needed your permission to exist. Something inside Evelyn loosened. Not forgiveness. Understanding. Mason had not destroyed her because she lacked value. He had tried because he could not survive beside anyone whose value he could not control. Evelyn stepped toward him. Mason Reed. He looked at her. Fear entered his eyes. Her wolf rose. Silver blue light flooded Evelyn's gaze. The hall trembled beneath a pressure older than Alpha Command. Mason dropped to one knee. No, Evelyn remembered Blackthorn Cliff. His fingers opening. Her body falling. 7 years of poison. 7 years of believing she had been born wrong. She could kill him. Everyone in the room knew it. Alexander knew it. He said nothing. Evelyn looked down at Mason. Death would be easy. His face tightened. I revoke your alpha authority. The words came from somewhere deeper than speech. Moonborn power answered. Mason screamed. A silver mark burned briefly across his chest. Then vanished. His alpha aura disappeared with it. Around the hall, wolves lifted their heads. Mason tried to command them. Nothing happened. For the first time in his life, nobody obeyed. Evelyn turned away. Behind her, Mason whispered, You can't leave me like this. She stopped. You left me at the bottom of a cliff. Then she walked toward Alexander. He stood beneath the open doors where morning light spilled across his black armor. No claim. No command. No expectation. What do you want? He asked. The question struck somewhere tender. Evelyn looked at the throne. Then at the kneeling wolves. Then beyond the doors, where dawn touched mountains she had once believed marked the edge of her world. First, Alexander waited. I want to know who I am. A quiet smile touched his face. Then I'll walk beside you while you find out. He offered his hand. Not demanded. Offered. Evelyn stared at it. Her wolf was silent now. She did not need instinct to make this choice. Slowly, Evelyn placed her hand in his. Alexander's fingers closed gently around hers. Behind them, Silver Ridge began rising from its knees. Ahead, the doors remained open. And Evelyn finally understood the difference between being chosen and choosing. Mason had called her his mate and built a cage around her. Alexander could command kingdoms. Yet he walked beside her. Not ahead. Not behind. Beside. Evelyn stepped into the sunrise with the Immortal Alpha King at her side. Deep within her, the white wolf lifted her face toward the morning. For 7 years, they had poisoned her into silence. They had called her broken, weak, empty. They had thrown her into an abyss because they feared what would happen if she survived. They had been right to fear one thing. She survived. And this time, Evelyn Carter would decide what came next.